Around the town with Taylor Brown. I'm with me, mate. It's episode 8.
Oh, wow. Stop it. That was terrible.
Why was it terrible?
It just was. It just, it was terrible. Anyway.
I could have said something starting with master and ending with 8. That would have that would.
Probably be more accurate.
I've stopped him from. It's episode 8.
Okay.
I do have many recollections this year, Taylor, of people on the rugby league shows saying rugby league is the gift that keeps on coming for news. I actually think it's been a bit of a slow season for news, personally.
Been a slow season for news. And if you look at the last 3-4 weeks in particular, it's gotten slower.
Yes.
And I'll tell you how you know. Last night on NRL 360, Braith and Astor broke down Latrell Mitchell's body language and the way he was playing and all this sort of thing, and how he didn't have, and it didn't look like he cared and all this sort of stuff. The fact that Braith and Astor's got time to watch these games of football and break down Latrell Mitchell individually, means there's not too much other dramas going on in the world of rugby league. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also think one of the problems is that we don't have a trade window. So what will happen is in the next few weeks after the semis and the final, the game will just drop out of the news for a long time. And wouldn't it make great if we had a trade window there to keep the news ticking over?
Yeah, well, you think about it. At least October will be empty, relatively empty, other than lead up to these national tournaments going on.
Well, they don't. I mean, half the journals are on holiday during them anyway. They're very nonchalant in their coverage, I find, over here anyway.
Yeah, I think they've got a tried and true product league over here. They don't have to work too hard. They know what they have, and they can have a bit of a break, I guess.
You did mention Latrell, so let's talk about Souths. I did a stat on my own social media. They've basically lost 8 of the last 12 games since they were top of the ladder in round 11. What's going on?
Look, South Sydney, it's crazy because talking round 11 and a bit earlier on from that, you were probably of a similar opinion to myself in saying that South's had the best attack in the competition. They've never really had problems scoring points. When Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, Damien Cook, they have this really electrifying spine, which Ilias complements very well. When they move and they're smooth throughout their movements, and it is really poetic to watch, isn't it? Like the pass to pass to pass. And I remember leading into Origin, I said Cody Walker needs to be in the Origin side because he's the best attacking footballer in the game at the moment. So if you look at how you're going to rate a season, you'd rate them quite poorly. You'd rate them at a pass mark for what they have on the field. They're just not performing week in, week out. And it's starting to get very concerning if you're a Souths fan because big chance they miss out on finals period.
It wouldn't be a pass mark if they missed out on finals, would it?
Absolutely not. I think and we'll probably get into this a little bit later on when we do start looking at a few teams. With the cattle they have available, although they did miss Latrell for in an extended period of time, with the cattle they've had available, they should more than comfortably make the top 8. But the fact that we're here right now towards the end of the season with a couple of rounds to go and they're sort of shaking in their boots, concerning.
Talking of missing the top 8, it looks like Manly Sea Eagles have, and the ex-South Sydney coach Anthony Seibold was installed there this year. They put a little bit of context into it. A year ago, it was a club that was in the midst of a crisis that was linked to the Pride jersey in many ways. But I think it was obviously deeper than that. It was a power struggle within the club. They now sit outside the 8 and probably can't get in. I don't think they can. How do you judge Manly? How do you judge Anthony Seibold's first season?
Yeah, I think I think if you really sat down with the Manly Sea Eagles power brokers at the start of the year and said, do you genuinely believe you could win a competition this year? I don't think they would have said they can. I think you'll find there was some noises that they were aiming for the top 4 coming from the club, though. Yeah. Oh, they had with Cherry Evans, and if you have a fit Tom Trbojevic, there's always a possibility. But the reality is Tom Trbojevic never really got on the park in 2023, which is a regular headline for Tom Trbojevic. He's not. He's just not on the park. And you've said it yourself. Tom Trbojevic is probably one of the best footballers live you've ever seen play, and the effect he can have on a game and on that team is just massive. And that's certainly a big loss. Cherry Evans has had an inspirational individual season. Schuster, I think they banked hard on Schuster. There were some injuries and a few things, and they just didn't get going.
Jake Turbo also missed quite a chunk of the middle of the season, where I think some of their fortunes started to go into a little bit of treacle. So Manly are missing out. Who's your top 8?
It's an apology. Sorry, we'll go back. Manly, the way they're set up as a club, I actually look at it and think they might struggle for a while to get that grand final team back, because they would pay, let's say, Jake, Tom, and Cherry Evans are average on $1 million each.
Mm-hmm.
Which you would almost guarantee Cherry Evans is on more than that, and Tom Trbojevic is on more than that. Jake might be the $800,000-$900,000 off there, but he would be close to $1 million himself, I'd say. You're holding up a good third of the salary cap, if not more, in 3 players.
That's right.
And so what you do then is you struggle to put much quality in and around that. If you look at the Melbourne Storm, they sort of have a few quality players, but I doubt they'd be paying too much overs for Jerome Hughes and a few of these people. They just have some good players that are willing to take unders to make sure the club stays successful. I'm not quite sure they have that balance quite right at Manly. It's a hard one to do, but I'm unsure if they've got the balance correct.
On the subject of the top 8, while you were talking there, I decided to go on the NRL website, and they've actually got a story which I think we should, if you like, preview for anyone who wants to read it, serialize it, if you like, because they've done a story which is each team's best and worst case finishes. So that would really help you, I think, with deciding your 8. And this one actually goes all the way down to West Tigers in 17th. So
what are their chances?
So West Tigers, best case finish 16th, worst case finish 17th. Remaining fixtures: Roosters away, Sea Eagles away.
Yeah, I think the Sea Eagles away, they could get a chance to get a win. I think Roosters away, they lose. Roosters are still hunting and trying to make that top 8.
What about the Benji factor? Do you think there's been a bit of a kick in performance? I mean, I know they've only played the Dolphins, and they're definitely on a downward spiral, aren't they? Like, they've run out of gas, the Dolphins.
Yeah, they've quite literally run out of gas. And I don't think beating the Dolphins is necessarily a very good grading at the moment, considering the Dolphins also had Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow out. They had Marshall King out. They had a swathe of players that weren't on the park that day. So, I hate to be too negative or anything like that, but beating the Dolphins isn't necessarily, standing on top of the Philly steps, is it?
No, I just think that club has been in such dire straits, so just a win against anybody just changes things a little bit. Anyway, it's...
So Lee, in your opinion, do they beat the Roosters this weekend?
No.
Okay.
But I think they could beat Manly.
Yeah, I believe that too. I think
Manly they could, I think they could play against the Roosters in such a way that they get a lot of confidence, even though they don't get over the top of them. So that, I'm buying in a little bit to the Benji factor, because I do think, regardless of what I think he'll be as a coach, or what anybody thinks as a coach, or whether he's done enough of apprenticeship, I have no doubt he's got the ability to inspire 17 people to put in a bit more effort.
Yeah,
every Sunday or whatever day it is, for a short period of time. So, St. George Illawarra Dragons are currently 16th. They could finish 15th or as low as 17th. They've got to go to New Zealand, and they've got to play the Knights at home.
Well, I don't think they'll win either of those games, really, with the way the Knights have played and the Warriors of late. I think the Dragons could be looking at the wooden spoon.
Well, it's just saying here that the Tigers have to win one more game than the Dragons in the last 2.
Yeah,
but they also have to turn around a 57-point swing in points differential.
Yeah,
Bulldogs currently in 15th. Best case finish 13th. Worst case finish 16th. Sea Eagles at home. Titans away.
I think they can certainly beat the Titans. But the Sea Eagles, I mean, mathematically, can they make it, or have they been locked away now?
Well, when I get up to the Seagulls, I'll let you know.
Well, it just depends on my prediction on that game.
No,
Really,
they can't get into the 8.
yeah, well, then I'd say that both of those games are winnable for the Bulldogs.
I will say something else, though. There are some teams, and it's happened a lot, when the pressure's off, they win well. And they play without shackles. So that it could be, for both Seagulls and Titans, it could be counterproductive for the Dogs.
It could be counterproductive indeed.
Let's review their season, mate, while we're here.
Who?
Dogs.
Yeah, a bit of a topsy-turvy one, wasn't it? I think they probably made headlines this week in particular because of Pangai Jr. What I'm in the next 5 minutes, Lee. No, sorry, not 5 minutes. In the next, 2 to 3 months, is the reallocation of Pangai Jr.'s money, where that is pushed to, where they use it, whether they use it in a smart way, because they do have a little bit of a war chest now that they can attack some big players. Or I'd just like to see how that redistribution happens. If they make some smart decisions with that money, it could be all the difference for 2024 for the Bulldogs with the incoming Stephen Crichton.
Just as you were talking then, Taylor, your microphone went a little bit, how's your father? So what I'll do is, while you're having a play around with that, I'll review the Dolphins season. And then I think yours sounds all right now, actually, anyway. So we'll give it another whirl. Best case finish 12th for the Dolphins, who are currently in 14th. Worst case finish 15th. I still think it's success for them not getting a wooden spoon.
It is a success. I think if you spoke about the Dolphins early on, there was a lot of, just a big feeling around the Dolphins that they were a success as soon as they really won that round 1 game against the Roosters. You felt that straight away. You're like, this is the right thing. This is a success for the Dolphins. I believe I had higher hopes for them this season if they kept a lot of their squad on the paddock, but as NRL seasons do, they separate the men from the boys, and unfortunately the Dolphins didn't quite have the squad to push any further up this year. But yeah, absolutely a great season for the Dolphins, a great first year. I'd like to see them push up as high as 12th. That would be amazing in their first year.
Well, they've got 2 home games against the Cowboys and then the Warriors. I'd be more disappointed if I was the Titans, who are currently in 13th, and they can finish 12th or 14th, and they've got Storm away and Bulldogs at home. I mean, that Gold Coast, it just seems to be one of them clubs that if Des Hasler can't fix them, then I think, they're doomed for a while, I think.
Yeah, it is concerning, isn't it? The Dolphins really haven't had any success at all, the Titans, so they haven't had any success at all. So it's quite concerning. And I think Des Hasler, Des Hasler, there was some question marks around the way he left Manly as well. So whether he is really the man for the job, I don't know who the man is for the job. And the men that would be right for the job, I don't think they'd take it. So,
bear in mind, 20 years ago, Manly were the Northern Eagles, and then Manly nearly died, and then we're in a whole rebirthing process.
Yeah, but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Let me finish. I've not even finished. I've not even started saying what I want to say yet.
Well, you paused. You had a long pause. Don't have a long pause.
No, I didn't. This is only the second time in those 20 years that Manly have missed the finals because they officially can't make it. They could finish 9th or as low as 14th. They've got the Bulldogs away and the West Tigers at home. They're actually not... to try and finish 9th, they're not actually too bad fixtures, though, are they?
No, they aren't. They are. But as you said, the pressure off some of these sides at the lower end of the ladder, maybe they pipe up and do something miraculous. But so the same could be said for the Seagulls. So, I mean, it's still... 9th would be a fair assessment for Manly. If they finish 9th, I would say, that's not too bad considering some of the obstacles they've had.
Now, they need results to go their way. But we're now going into teams that could still make the 8. Parramatta are in 11th, could finish 8th or as low as 12th. They play the Panthers this week away, but they have the bye in the last round.
Yeah, this is huge, this game, isn't it? And obviously that would depend on for and against as well. And I believe looking at the ladder today, the Parramatta are on minus. I think they had too many points to catch, in my opinion. If you've got it in front of yourself, you might be able to let me know.
They need a 30-point total.
Yeah. So they need to win by 18 or so against the Panthers, and then they need whoever is above them to lose by 12, and I think I don't believe it's going to happen.
That's a fair old drop from the grand final.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're probably one of the worst ratings of 2023. You'd like to think.
So you're saying Para out?
I don't think Parramatta make the finals. No, I think with Dylan Brown, that case really wore on their season. Not that they had a great start, but I think that was just sort of an almost nail in the coffin for them, is that they had one of their star players, their 5'8", out for an extended period of time on some quite serious charges. I think that was certainly, not a nail in the coffin, but very similar for their season.
The Roosters are currently 10th, talking of disappointed seasons. They could finish 12th, but they've won the last 3 games. And they've got the last place West Tigers at home this week and the dodgy Rabbits away in the last round.
And they'd love nothing better. That'll be a fight for a finals finish, I believe, that game between the Roosters and the Rabbits. That'll be a fight for a finals finish. And you'd like to think, well, you wouldn't like to think, you can comfortably say that the Roosters are currently in better form than the Rabbitohs.
They have a minus 62 points difference.
Which is absolutely huge to try and claw back, isn't it? But I think the Roosters, they get a win this week against the Tigers. It's very possible that they can put a cricket score on the Tigers. And then a close one against the Rabbitohs in the following week. They certainly could claw this one back in and make the finals. I'd back them over the Rabbits at the moment.
So in or out?
In.
North Queensland Cowboys, currently in 9th, could finish 6th or as low as 12th. They play the Dolphins away and the Panthers are away.
Oh, this one's a tough one to pick. I think they beat the Dolphins this week, which will be a shame because I'm going to be there at the game myself. I think they beat the Dolphins this week, and then it'll be a tight one against the Panthers. If they beat the Panthers, they'll deserve to stay in there, but depending on results, it may not be enough.
Panthers are notorious for resting players in the last round, aren't they?
They are. But if you have a look at the top of the ladder in terms of minor premiership, the Broncos are right behind them, and I think the minor premiership might be enough to have them keep some players on the field. If you think back to last year, Lee, and probably the year before that, Penrith comfortably had the minor premiership in the bag by this stage, the last round. Whereas this year, it's a bit more of a fight with the Broncos.
Cowboys in or out?
Out.
Just writing this down, Taylor, so you can.
Which is disappointing for me to even say, Lee, because I honestly, if you remember back to podcast after round 1, I predicted Cowboys to win the comp.
Well, School's been saying they can win the comp for a long time. South Sydney Rabbitohs are currently in 8th, could finish as high as 6th.
That just shows how similar Gus and I look and think.
You definitely look similar, yeah.
I served that to you on a platter and you still took it.
Could finish as low as 11th. And they've got the bye this week and Roosters at home in the last round.
I think they lose. I think they lose to the Roosters in the last round and then they're out of the semis.
Okay.
Which, by my calculations, mean everyone underneath this is safe.
Yep. Knights currently 7th, best finish 4th, worst case 9th. Sharks at home, Dragons at home.
Yeah, isn't this just the story of the season? The Newcastle Knights.
It's certainly, It's reminiscent of a little bit. It's not there yet, but do you remember when Parramatta came home late in 2009 and Jared Hayne at fullback? So there's a link there, the Kalen Ponga, Jared Hayne thing. I'm really happy for Kalen Ponga because I think, when you're talking about your head and close to retirement, and it's a bit different than breaking your leg, your head can impact everything. So I'm really happy for him that it's going well. And I'm obviously happy for Adam O'Brien as well because he's been knocked from pillar to post. He's always getting linked with a sack. So, I really hope they have a really good end to the year personally.
Yeah, I think the Knights win both of those games, Lee. I really do. I think they win both games. And they finish. I'd like to see them finish in 4th, but I think that's going to be dependent on other results. So, Yeah, I think the Knights certainly win both games, and you'd have to argue they're one of the form sides of the competition leading into the finals. Whether they can convert that into some depth in the series, who knows?
The Raiders currently in sixth. Best case finish third. Worst case finish ninth. You obviously have them in.
I have them in.
They play Broncos at home and Sharks away. That's actually quite a tough two games.
It is a tough two games. But I think if they win one of those games, they're guaranteed finals.
Sharks are currently fifth, can finish as high as third, as low as ninth. So they could drop out. They've got Knights away and Raiders at home.
This is where some of my predictions start crossing over each other, because I believe the Broncos beat the Raiders next week. Sorry, the Sharks next week, and then the Raiders have the Sharks, and I predicted the Raiders to stay in. So they start.
No, but other results might not go.
The other results might not go the right way. But yeah, look, they're in. They're in for sure. And the Raiders, I actually, before a ball was kicked in 2023, I said they might be spooners. So they've certainly proved me wrong.
Sharks, I still tip them for the comp.
You're still tipping for the comp?
Yeah, I think their attack is brilliant. When they're just a bit free flowing, and I think their attack is one of the best in the league. Not necessarily in terms of points they've scored, and I also think that it's not. You don't have to win all the way through the year. I tipped them early, so I've just got to stick with them. Melbourne Storm are in. Obviously, they could finish as high as third and sixth. I'm not going to ask you for predictions now because there's another question I want to ask you. Melbourne Storm could finish as high as third, as low as sixth. They've got the Titans at home, the Broncos away. The Warriors, what season they've had, they could still finish first or as low as fifth. They've got the Dragons at home and the Dolphins away. So they're an outside chance of a top two finish. Wouldn't that be good?
Well, that's the feel good story of rugby league at the moment. Other than the night, like the Warriors on fire, and you absolutely love to see it up the wires. And I'm not going to lie, Lee, everyone likes to get behind a team and support a team, and I know you're supposed to be impartial. My team in the NRL for the semi-finals period will be the Warriors. Yeah. I'm going to jump on that bandwagon as hard as possible and ride it home.
And then Broncos and Panthers are at the top. Broncos have got the Raiders away and Storm at home. That's a tough finish. And the Panthers have got the Eels at home and the Cowboys at home. So my next question, mate, who's going to make the grand final and who's going to win it?
I believe that the Panthers will be very close to the grand final this year, and the Broncos. I think the Warriors make the grand final. I think the Warriors are going to make it, and I think it'll be against the Panthers or the Broncos. And the more I think about it, the more I say Broncos.
Wow,
I'd love to see a Broncos Warriors grand final, and I think we can still see it. It's just gonna really depend on the draw, how everyone finishes up. Yeah, but I believe that's what we see. I think we see a Broncos Warriors grand final.
I, on my own social media, did a couple of short podcasts on 3 topics. I'm going to do 3 a week, I think, or sometimes 6 a week, depending on how things are rolling. And they're nothing really to do with what we've just been talking about. They're different areas in the game. So I'd like to fire them to you, Taylor, to get your opinions. Your opinions on female development in the game?
I think female development in the game in the last 5 years has exploded. I think it's unfair to compare rugby league to other sports nationally, like soccer, like AFL. I think
Why?
I think AFL have done it for a lot longer than rugby league have.
There was a Rugby League World Cup in women as far back as 1970 something, I believe.
I'm not saying that AFL have had women playing longer. I think they've truly invested time in growing the game of women's AFL for a lot longer than rugby league has. If you look at rugby league, they haven't really spent the time or money on that side that they have in the last 5 years ever. You know, the funding they have given to women's rugby league in the last 5 years has been phenomenal. We're starting to see the results of that, and it truly is an entertaining style of football to watch. I don't think you can compare it to soccer, who have just, been really good. It's a far more international game than rugby league. I think rugby league's doing a really good job of it. They need to continue on this track. I'd like to see every NRL club have an NRLW side within the next 5 years. That's the expansion from here.
The international game, your opinions on where that is at the minute?
It was on life support 3 months ago, Lee. With the announcement of these games, it's a step in the right direction. I believe the international game is a step in the right direction. What they need to do now is to secure funding. They need to secure the financial future of the game. At the moment, the NRL has a financial future, the Super League, obviously, with sponsorships and that. They need to secure the international game. That's got to be a large step in the right direction for them.
If it was on life support, using the same analogy, what is it now? Is it sort of up and about walking, or is it just sat up talking?
It's sat up talking.
Okay.
There's no walking yet, Lee. Calm down.
Okay.
Long way off a marathon.
Non-tackle and non-compete rules in juniors.
I don't like them. Lee, I think I've spoken about this at length with you.
Personally, you mean?
Personally, also on your old podcast, we had lots of discussions around. See, it's perfect timing for myself because my son is in the under sevens now. This is his first year of tackle. He's just done the tackle ready program, things like that. Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing the tackle ready program. I think it's great. I just think it needs to happen when they first come into rugby league. They need to learn how to tackle from the first time they step on a field. The amount of kids that struggle in the back half of under sevens, under eights, you can see it when you watch a game. You can physically see it. Their first form of contact is with hands like this. They go out, forward. They're not trying to actually make a safe tackle. It's because they've been trying to do this for a year and a half before they've even learned.
So for those listening, Taylor's motioning a shopping trolley or somebody swimming, doing.
Now, as you know,
doggy paddle.
One of the most dangerous things about rugby league is if you have improper tackling technique. If you cannot defend with the right technique, you're going to get your head. You're going to get something at the wrong way at the wrong time. And that's when you're going to get the concussions. That's when you're going to actually get injured.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's imperative that we teach our kids the tackle ready program. But why are we waiting a year and a half to do it? Let's get them into it immediately.
And what about non-compete? So no score lines kept, no finals, that kind of
kids
thing.
Know. The kids know every time they walk off the field, they ask questions. Who scored? What did we do? Who won? They know if they won or lost already. They count it themselves. I don't like it. I don't agree. It's how we as humans learn to win or lose is from sport. I don't agree. I think we need to bring back competitions. And the fact that this annoys me a lot, and I've spoken to a lot of junior parents about this, they took away the finals for the kids of that age group. They took away all those finals, grand finals and that. Instead of replacing them with extra competition games to keep that comp going, they just cut it off with the regular season of the older kids that have finals. And it's like, you know, parents are paying lots of money for their kids to play rugby league.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we shortening the competition?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we making it easier for them to pick somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're not going to play competitions like semi-finals, grand finals, you should at least be extending the games out for as long as you can.
So we've had a detailed dive into the National Rugby League. We're now going to look at the Queensland Rugby League and the Host Plus Cup. Our focus mostly today is going to be on the teams that didn't make the eight. So we talked about who made the eight or who will make the eight in the NRL. We'll all focus on that. But we're going to do a deep dive and talk about the teams that aren't in the mix for the QRL Host Plus Cup. But first of all, let's talk about your tips from last week, Taylor. You had the Devils to win, and you got that right. You had the Falcons to win, you got that right. You didn't have the Cutters to win. The Cutters played against the Clydesdales and flogged them. So you got that one wrong. You had the Bears to win against the Blackhawks. Well done. You didn't have the Capras to beat the Magpies. I'm not sure anybody did, actually.
No one did.
That was a shock. I couldn't believe it when I saw that Burley had taken out the Premiership, the minor Premiership. And you didn't pick the Tigers. You thought your beloved Seagulls, because you've been on them all year, would have got the win there.
It's funny you say beloved Seagulls. It's funny you say that, because as a player, I hated Wynnum more than I hated any other side. There's something about there's a long-standing history between Redcliffe and Wynnum, and you love to hate them. You know what I mean? Very similar to myself when you were my teacher. You
love to hate me.
Love to hate you. Yeah, absolutely adored it. It was so much fun. That's exactly how I felt about Wynnum. And now I actually see they're not too much of a dissimilar club. I think I would have had a similar experience if I ended up in a green jersey that I did in a red.
That's right. That's right. That's probably why they hate each other. This week, let's see if you well, you've only got 4 to get right this week, so let's see if you don't do better.
Here he goes.
In the semis, Souths are at home at the Logan Metro campus thingy that I've never heard of. At home to the Tigers. That's second versus third. Who gets that?
I think Souths get that one. I think Souths beat.
So Tigers stay in, though, don't they, and have a second bite of the cherry?
They do, yeah. But I just think that Souths lost on the weekend to the Capras, and although Capras were in that top 4, no one ever really conceded it, and yeah, I think Souths bounced back in a big way.
The Bears finished top, and they're at home to the Capras.
I'll be calling this game live from Pizzey Park.
Oh, yeah?
I am calling this game.
Where can you watch that?
Well, you can watch it next to me if you want to come down for a drive on Saturday if you've got nothing on. But everyone else can watch it on Q+.
Saturday. Yeah, I might do, yeah. So Q+?
Yeah, qplus.tv. That's where you can catch all the action for the Queensland Rugby League.
And you think the Bears?
Yeah, I do think the Bears.
Well, yeah, you can come past mine and pick me up then.
I can come past yours, yeah, and pick you up on the way through, yeah.
Come to my cafe for a feed. Redcliffe versus the Falcons, 5th versus 8th.
I'll also be calling this game live from KO Stadium on 2 o'clock on Sunday. So,
and what are you the lead caller?
I am the lead caller for both games.
And what show is that on?
That'll also be on qplus.tv.
Sweet. I might be doing 2 trips with you, lad, this weekend.
You might be, but yeah, I'm not driving down to pick you up.
No. I'll get on the frog and toad that way. Can we have a tip, please? So the Bears will beat the Capras, yeah? And Redcliffe and Falcons, 5th versus 8th.
So I do predict Redcliffe to win this game. They had a loss to the Pride last weekend, which is the wake-up call they needed. And if you look at the Falcons, they've actually had the services of Ryan Pappenhausen for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, yes. And the rumours are?
The rumours are that he will be playing for the Storm this weekend against the Titans, which if you are Craig Bellamy...
Couldn't that change the finals blueprint as well in the NRL?
For both major competitions, for the NRL and the Queensland Rugby League. The other thing there, devil's advocate, Suafa'alongo for the Falcons, who was also contracted to the Storm, is having a Hayne-esque end to this season for the Falcons, playing on the wing. The tries he's scoring are just absolutely marvellous. And if he gets a little bit more ball in hand, the way he's playing football in the moment, he could be just as dangerous as Pappenhausen. So there is a caveat to that, but I still believe the Dolphins win at home.
Wynnum versus the Pride.
I think you know which way I'm going to go with this one.
Yeah.
The Pride, I guess, surprise packets of 2020. Well, not necessarily surprise packets. They were always predicted to be mid-table, but the way they've come into the final series, beating out Tweed Heads and a few of those Townsville Blackhawks and a few of the clubs that you'd expect to see in there more often than not, they've done extremely well. They had a good win against the Dolphins last weekend. I don't tip them to get the wood over Wynnum, though.
Okay. All right. We had a deep dive into the higher echelons of the NRL, or focused on who was going to make the 8, basically. But we're going to have a bit more of a focus now on the teams that didn't make the 8 in the QRL Host Plus Cup. Okay. But I'll work down the ladder this time. The Seagulls finished in 9th. They had a season where they won 11 games and lost 9.
Yeah, the Seagulls, they'll be disappointed with their finish in 2023. They had an opportunity against the Falcons last round to either it was a fight for that 8th position, and they lost. So which is what it is, unfortunately, for Tweedhead Seagulls, but they'll certainly be disappointed with the back end of their season. And I think if they got into the finals, they could have given it a good nudge, but yeah, disappointing for the Seagulls.
The Hunters are in 10th and finished there with 9 wins and 10 losses. So the first team in the ladder with a losing season is in 10th, and they had a minus 50.
I don't think the Hunters had a bad season at all. I think they've improved on some of their performances in recent seasons. They have a really good structure at the club now, I believe. Bringing someone like Tommy Butterfield into the higher ranks there was a great move by the Hunters, and I think that can only reap rewards for them in the future. Someone with very strong ties, not only to Papua New Guinea, but here in southeast Queensland. Look, I think certainly not. They would have loved to play semi-finals football, but 10th is not the end of the world there for the Hunters.
The North Devils, last year's premiers, finished in 11th.
Parramatta Eels-esque, isn't it?
22 points and lost 10 games, only won 8.
Yeah.
Did draw 2.
I think if you look at the Devils, they actually didn't have too much of a DNA shake-up from last year's grand final win. A massive piece of the puzzle was the head coach. We've spoken about this before. Their coaches last year came in, Neighbour and King. They took over Rowan Smith when he left for the Super League, and they did an outstanding job, still leading the Devils to the grand final, which they won against the Dolphins in 2022. I think this year they weren't there, Lee. They weren't there, and it was changing coaching style. And look, it was a disappointing season. They'll no doubt go again, but they'll have to go again without Jack Ahern, who's retired from the game.
In 12th, the Blackhawks, and they lost 11 games this year, won 8 and drew 1.
Yeah, previously known as the powerhouses of rugby league up there in Townsville. Traditionally, they've had very strong sides, but this is the second year in a row they miss out on semi-finals football. Aaron Payne has paid the price, departing the Blackhawks immediately. That was probably later stages of the season once they knew they couldn't make the semis. But yeah, look, the Blackhawks have a lot of work to do. I think if you look at it, Townsville and the Cowboys are massive proponents for the national second tier of rugby league. So maybe they've cut some funding to that club. I'm not 100% sure, but results certainly aren't going their way.
Mm-hmm. Now, a very funny quirk of this ladder this year, the Blackhawks in 12th are the last team. Every team above them, bar the Seagulls and the Seagulls from Wynnum Manly, so the Tweedhead and the Wynnum Manly Seagulls, every team apart from those two above the Blackhawks, and including the Blackhawks, has had draws this year.
Yeah.
So Blackhawks 1, Devils 2, Hunters 1, Falcons 1, Pride 2, Dolphins 3, Capras 2, Tigers 1, Magpies 2, Bears 1. I mean, when's the last time that happened in rugby league history?
It's crazy. You'd have to ask Mido, really. But if you have a look at those results, either way, 1 point here, 1 point there, could have had a massive change onto the season. I mean, you look at the Dolphins, they've had 3 draws. They win all of those games, and they're propelled certainly into the top 4, possibly looking at a top 2 position.
Below the Blackhawks, we have the Clydesdales, who lost 17 matches but won 3 in their inaugural season.
Look, I think the Clydesdales were picked not to win a game. Much similar to the Dolphins in the NRL in their debut season. I think it's certainly a pass mark for the Clydesdales. They have set up a pathway for the Bulldogs. That pathway will need to strengthen if they are going to compete next year. I don't mean strengthen in terms of more money. I mean strengthen in terms of throwing a few players up to the Clydesdales by way of the Bulldogs, which is a very similar, can I say, prediction for the Ipswich Jets if they don't get some more help from the Sydney Roosters.
Cutters finished in 14th.
They're starting to remind me of the Tigers in the NRL, the Cutters. Just have not had
Is that who beat the Magpies last week? Was it the Cutters?
No, it was the Capras.
That's right, yeah. I always mix those two up. The Cutters lost 17 games as well.
Yeah. So the Cutters they're starting to remind me of the West Tigers in the NRL. Just can't seem to win a trick at the moment. Apologies. Can't seem to win a trick at the moment. They've had bad season after bad season. And it's certainly looking very doom and gloom for the Cutters.
And then in final place, Jets, who have not won one game. They didn't even get a draw. They have lost 20.
Well, I think you've summed up that season for them, Lee.
Okay.
I think if you look at those bottom couple of teams, the support they get from the NRL clubs is now non-existent, and by way of players, and that's had a massive effect on their seasons, and going to continue to do so until they can get some more help.
Thank you, Taylor, for this in-depth knowledge pertaining to the Queensland Host Plus Cup. Now, as is tradition, when Lee Addison hosts a podcast, we end with something absolutely nothing to do with rugby league.
Yeah, I'm concerned.
It could be, but as you know, I went to England and I went there for holiday, but I was quite sick and had a few other things going on, regarding the business and stuff. So it was actually quite a tough time. Like, I was in England and didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much as I should have done. So this weekend I started to feel good again. So I basically decided I was going to have a little mini holiday here. And a holiday in my mind is basically not thinking about anything. And it doesn't matter if I'm in my living room or in Barbados or in England. It's about that, just relaxing. And a big part of that is that I do tend to eat and drink what I want during that period. So I don't even stress about, putting on weight or anything. I just decide to go gung-ho. Or, it doesn't have to be gung-ho in the sense that I just eat everything, nothing like that. But, I don't even consider a healthy meal. I don't put pressure on myself to have a healthy meal or whatever. So I did that.
Eat what you feel like.
Yeah, I did that for 2 or 3 days. Well, probably 3 days. So my question to you, TB, 7 days worth of meals in the evening, so your dinner, your tea, what would be your 7 meals? In the same mental state, like all caution to the wind.
All caution to the wind.
Yeah.
I think
so. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I love Italian. I love pizza and pasta. So I'd have one night, and nice Italian too, Lee. I'm not talking Pizza Hut or any of that garbage. I'm talking, there's some nice Italian restaurants here at Redcliffe. I'd probably go down there with the bride and rip into one of them with some wine.
Yeah. So two days. Do you want to pick days? So which day's pizza day?
Let's just any daily. You just
All right, you're going to have a pizza on a Wednesday, and you're going to have a pasta dish with the bride and a glass of wine on a Friday.
Okay, no worries. I love a steak. Recently, I went to Melbourne and had a steak at the Meat and Wine Co. there, just near the Crown Casino, and it was absolutely delicious.
How'd you like your steak?
I order it rare.
Wow.
Because I just find a lot of
order it rare or rarely order it.
I order it rare because a lot of people, if you order a steak rare, will give you medium rare because they're scared of undercooking.
Yeah.
And I'd like it a bit, rarer than medium. So I order it rare.
You're going for a steak on Saturday afternoon.
Okay. Thank you. Well, on Sunday, I'm having the seafood tower, Lee.
Seafood tower?
Yeah, some prawns and some oysters.
Yeah. On the Sabbath.
Yeah.
So you got Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday to fill up.
Okay. My wife does this really, really good crispy skin salmon. And it's really nice. I'd have that.
Monday?
Put that whatever you want it, yeah.
Monday, good way to start the week.
It's a really good way to start the week, isn't it? My wife's got a Thermomix. You know what a Thermomix is?
Yeah, I think so.
It's like a cooking sort of, it's you look them up. They're great guns. They do everything.
Do you ever cook or do you just keep it all to
Naomi? I do. Yeah. Only when it's in the Thermi because it's easy. It just tells you put this in here and then it just chops it up and put this in there and it makes it easy.
Yeah.
But there's a really good tacos dish on there that the kids and I love to have as well. So I'd say that is one of the meals. Tuesday tacos.
You just got Thursday left, lad.
Okay, this is going to be a left field one, but it reminds me of a good time. So I remember when I first was with my wife, we first met, and I was playing football and I was sick 2 days before a game and I didn't know if I was going to make it. She made this soup called an immunity soup. It was very simple, but it was really beautiful. It tasted great, and I felt better like an hour later. Just chilies and all sorts of stuff in it. And every time I get sick now, I make her make it for me, and just that soup it brings feelings for me. So I'd have that soup on one of the days as well.
Lovely. Would you have a load of bread with it?
Yes,
Like half a loaf.
yeah, yeah. I don't know who Arthur is, but I'll take his loaf. Yeah,
So salmon, tacos, pizza, soup, pasta, steak, and seafood. What a week!
yeah.
No gout at all. Now, what you're having for desserts and what you're drinking?
So what I'm drinking will be the same every night. I'll have a beer or two.
Yeah.
Depending on the steak and seafood, I'll have a wine with it and the pasta. The other nights will just be a ginger beer.
What soft drink? Ginger beer, real beer.
And every single night my dessert will be the same.
Go on.
I'm giggling as I say it. I love this. I love it so much. I get a glass.
Yeah.
I put 3 ice cubes at the bottom.
Yeah.
A big scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Oh, hello.
Put it on top.
Yeah.
And then Bailey's up to the top.
Wow.
And then oh mate, it's the best. I love my liqueurs, but I'll have strawberries and cream Bailey one day. I'll have salted caramel the next. I'll have chocolate. Oh mate.
Well, tell Naomi I'll probably be around Tuesday if that's all right. And if we go to the games, who says we can't have a steak this Saturday?
We can have a steak. We'll have a steak for sure. We'll have a steak. Well, there might be somewhere at Burleigh we can have a steak, lad.
That's right, lad.
There might be a nice little spot on the Gold Coast there. I might actually look into that.
And you don't have to be on camera necessarily this time, do you? So you can blow out a little bit. Doesn't matter.
I can blow out a little bit. I won't be on camera at all.
There we go.
Oh, very good.
We're enthralling episode 8 with my mate Taylor Brown.
Cheers, everyone.